This is going to be another one of those videos where I advise that you grab some stitching and something to drink because it's going to be a long one. Hey everybody, so before this video actually gets started, I'm in the process of editing it and I've made the decision to break it up into 2 videos after I've recorded everything. And the reason for that is that it's almost 2 hours long and it's just going to take forever to upload, and it kind of makes sense to break this up into 2 videos. So this one's going to end kind of abruptly, and then the next one will start kind of abruptly. But it's the best way that I can come up with to break up this video because it just needed to happen. So I just kind of wanted to let you know that before we got started. Hello there everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube, and I am here with a long-awaited update video. Today is December the 2nd, 2016, and I'm trying to get over a cold. I'm also trying very hard not to say so and yeah. I did the closed captioning on my last video, and I say so, yeah, a lot. So I'm going to try to not, see there it is again, I'm going to try not to do that as much, but we shall see. This is going to be a long video because it's been so long. I hope that my voice can hold up. This morning I didn't have much of a voice at all, but after a cup of tea, 2 cups of coffee, I can speak again. So we're going to give this a go here. I don't have a whole lot of Q&A, just one question, and yeah, not a whole lot of things to talk about. Before I get started, you can probably hear Thor snoring, so he may make an appearance later, but we'll see. In my last update video back in early November, I was wearing a cowl that I had hand knit, and I didn't mention it and I meant to, but as Trisha from 3 Owl Threads noticed, it is the honey cowl, or the honeycomb cowl. I think it's the honey cowl is its official name, that I knit 2 years ago, I think. What I'm wearing today, I did not make. This is actually an infinity cowl scarf thing. It's humongous, that my brother gave to me for Christmas a couple years ago. It is very bright and very colorful, and it needs, but I don't get a chance to wear it very often because it's huge and bright. But I thought I'd wear it today, but I didn't make this one. I cannot take the credit for this. This one goes to Anthropology. Which kind of leads me into my next topic. Some people have been asking about my knitting updates. My knitting bug has died again. I'm really heavily into my stitching, and I don't have the drive to knit. Even when I wasn't able to stitch, and I'll talk about that here in a minute, even then I wasn't into knitting. So that's why my knitting updates haven't been happening. We'll see what happens. I might pick up the knitting again, but for the time being, it's on the side table. That's that. Okay, so one of the things that I do want to talk about is why it's been like 4 weeks-ish since my last video. So, shortly after my last video went up, I had a fall, and it was kind of bad. I slipped out in my living room, which is hardwood floors, and I hurt my back pretty bad. I landed on my hip, but there was no like major damage to my hip, but my back suffered the consequences. I must have landed just the right way to mess with my back. So my lower back was, I was like in I was really uncomfortable for a while there. And then because I was tensing to try to avoid any additional injury to my lower back, my upper back started hurting. So it was like this long drawn out thing. I got really lucky. I mean, I didn't break anything. I didn't bruise anything, like bone wise. I didn't chip anything. It could have been a lot worse, but I wasn't comfortable. So that's why I couldn't record, because there was no way that I was going to sit on the floor. I was husband doctor ordered to stay in bed and like pretty much not move unless I absolutely had to try to heal up. So there was no way that I was going to sit on the floor. So that's why that update didn't happen. And then the next weekend, or the next Wednesday, I was starting to feel a little bit better, and I was going to try to find a way to record in my chair like I did earlier this week. But we ended up leaving for the Thanksgiving weekend early. Earlier in the day on Wednesday, and so I just never had that opportunity to record that Wednesday. And then this week, it's been super gray, and so there just hasn't been the best opportunity. So that's kind of why I've been gone. Pretty much back injury. Yeah. I was able to stitch very little during that week that I was on bed rest. So, anyway. And then since then, let's see, we celebrated Thanksgiving, so happy belated Thanksgiving to all of my American friends. I hope that you had a good time with friends and family. We sure did. We ended up having Thanksgiving with my mom and siblings, so that was cool. And then we went down to Blacksburg after Thanksgiving to see the Virginia Tech UVA rivalry game. And it was a blowout. It was 52-10 was the final score. And that was pretty exciting. We found out that just before, even before the game kicked off, we were already ACC Coastal Division champions, which means that we are playing tomorrow against Clemson for the ACC title. And we haven't won the ACC title since I was in college, so it's been a while, and it's kind of exciting. It's a tough game tomorrow. It's Clemson's a dominant team this season, so we'll see what happens. I'm excited. And then, what else? That's kind of it. Holiday, football, back injury. That's what's happened these last 3 weeks. And a cold. Oh, and at the game, I got a sunburn. So it was like really cold. I mean, I don't want to say it was freezing because it was like in the mid 40s. And it didn't even feel like that in the sun. But yeah, I caught a little bit of sunburn here on this cheek. It's gone now. It was just a minor thing, but it was funny. I'm like shivering and I got a sunburn. Anyway. Okay, so we're like 10 minutes into this thing. Let's go ahead and start talking about stitchy stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is go over questions. And actually, I'm going to save that question for a little bit later because it's relevant to a project that I'm going to show. But one thing that I did want to say is thanks everybody for all of your positive comments on my last update video. I spoke about some things that were maybe left for a different media, and so I won't be discussing those things any longer. I also did not provide my email address because, as it turns out, I received kind of a nasty message about that subject, and that totally defeats the whole purpose of opening it up to discussion. So I decided not to leave my personal email. If you want to, get in contact with me on Facebook or send me a message through YouTube if you want to discuss further on that topic. But I don't need that poison in my personal email inbox. I don't need it. I also wanted to thank everybody for voting on the video that I put up on Wednesday. I asked for some help with regards to choosing the projects I'm working on this month, and I got a lot of really great feedback. I got a lot of votes, and so I just want to thank you guys for doing that. I didn't put a deadline on it, but I kind of left it up for a day and then tallied up the votes afterwards. So if people are still voting, hey, that's great. It's nice to see what you guys see in my projects that you appreciate, or that you want to see me work on. So even if the project that you voted for isn't one that I'm working on this month, it'll come up soon. So, and I might do this consistently. Like, I might ask you guys to pick my projects for me. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how December goes moving forward. January is shaping up to be a crazy month for stitching, so we'll kind of see what happens. I also wanted to address the music, so I attached some music for while the options were playing in a text list, and I was looking through iMovie to try to find something that sounded like the Jeopardy theme, but that obviously they don't have any rights to that. So I found that one, and it's called Pursuit, and so I thought that was kind of fun. It's dramatic, and I was in the pursuit of a vote. It was kind of fun. And I'm glad you guys appreciated that. Okay, last thing before I start actually showing things. I am overwhelmed by how this community, like, knows my stitching. Like, I know that we all love to watch FlossTube. It's just a lot of fun because these people on the other side of the screen, they get our hobbies. So, for instance, somebody voted for my mini pirate, and they referred to it as Booty. And I didn't mention that in that video, but they remembered that that was the nickname that I had applied to that project. And it just tickled me. Like, it gave me a warm and fuzzy feeling that you guys know the nickname that I gave to a project. And I haven't even mentioned it in months. That was cool. And somebody else mentioned a change that I had made to another project on Facebook, and I had forgotten that that was a change that I made, and they were like, don't forget, you did this, and I'm like, oh my god, I get you right. Anyway, I love that. I love that our community, like, really truly appreciates what we do. Like, if I don't know. I'm gonna like not go off on that tangent because I could sit there forever. But thank you. Thank you for appreciating my videos and my projects and knowing that I nicknamed the pirate Booty. That just, so fun. Okay, so I am going to go in order of when I worked on things. And we're going to start with whips. And I'm not breaking this up into the categories of the sals or whatever. I'm just going in order of when I stitched things. So, when I spoke to you guys last, I was working on my Under the Moonlight by Passione Rigamo. And I'm going to insert a preview here of what it will look like finished, as well as what it looked like the last time I showed it to you. I set this ridiculous goal to finish her skin in that week, and I probably could have done it, but I put this project down a lot sooner. But I still made some really great strides on her skin, so I'm going to open this up. And the fabric here is a 32 count Belfast in Lady of the Lake by Hand Dyed Fabrics by Stephanie. So, here's where we're at now. I'll try to find the best way to do this. So as you can see, I finished up that arm. Oh, wrong direction here, Jess. There we go. So that arm is all stitched, and that skin is done 1/1. So really all I have left to do is her torso. This empty space up in here, that's hair. So it's like her hair is kind of blowing forward, kind of like mine is doing. So really all the skin that I have left is just in that torso region. But I had to put it down because I was getting quite the migraine that Friday after my last video, and stitching 1/1, you can't. I don't know what it is with me and Friday migraines, but not today, fortunately. So anyway, so I couldn't stitch on this for too much longer, so I put it down. So there's that, and just a quick little view of how absolutely gorgeous she is. Love her. The end is really in sight on that one. You know, like some of my projects with the skin 1/1, once I get the skin done, there's still a ton left to do. So that one's close. Okay, so I couldn't work on that. On Saturday, Danny was at the football game. I ended up not going to the game that weekend because of the migraine I had on Friday. There was just no. So I stayed home. I couldn't work on that anymore. I didn't want to work on my needleworker anymore for some reason or another. So I pulled out a new start. Now here's what really prompted this new start. Heaven and Earth Designs had a spur of the moment 50% off sale. So I bought some things. And I was like, I'm not making a new Heaven and Earth Design start. I just want these charts. But one of them was a mini, and it fit the piece of Lugana that I had in my stash. So I'm like, I could really start that. But no, Jess, don't do that because you haven't reached your 10-page Heaven and Earth Design goal yet. So then, Saturday morning I get up. The Heaven and Earth Design sale is still on. And it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to end at midnight. So I bought another chart. And that chart is Mini Curl Up with a Good Book by Randall Spangler. You guys will know that I had started the full-size version of this chart, I think almost 2 years ago. Maybe 3 years. I don't know. So what was I trying to say there? Totally left the brain. Okay, so I decided to do the mini because I didn't have a fabric big enough to do the full size again, or to start the full size again. That one I had started on 28 count. I didn't like the fabric. As it turns out, I'm really kind of a stickler. I like the 25 count Lugana from Zweigart for my Heaven and Earth Designs, and that's kind of my box, and I'm going to live in that box. So Stephanie from Stephanie's Tiny X's is restarting hers, which was originally this stitch along that we had tried to do a couple years ago. So she's in the process of restarting hers, and I'm like, well, I want to do it too. But like I said, I'm not doing the large one. So I bought the mini, and I kitted it up. It took me forever to kit up this project because I was watching the football game at the same time. I had Thor, who is snoring really loud right now, I just realized. He did not want to just sit there and watch the football game. He wanted to play, so anyway, it took me forever to kit this thing up. I ended up not starting it until the next day, but I did start it. So let me go ahead and show you. First of all, here's what it will look like finished, and I absolutely love this. If that cat was a bulldog, this is me. I am a dragon. But no, really. I love just this whole scene. It's so cute, and it will look so good with my bookshelves. So, and like I said, 25 count Lugana. And this is antique white, and I didn't get a whole lot of a start, and I'll tell you why here in a second. So I got, I think that's 3.5 blocks. 1, 2, yeah, 3.5 blocks. And then I had to stop because I was out of 718, like totally 100% out of 718. And I couldn't just keep going and then wait to get the 718 a little bit later. Like, I couldn't do that. So, I put this down. So I got a good 350 stitches done, and then that was it. And that's all that I've worked on it since. I need to pick this back up. I think this might be my Heaven and Earth design for January, but we shall see. So there's that. I know I shouldn't have made the new start because I made that plan to do the 10 pages, and I don't need 6 Heaven and Earth designs on the go, and I'm trying to do this Year of Whips, but fear of missing out, and Stephanie and I kind of like, I don't know, like coming together on this project. Sorry for dipping out of frame there. You know, Stephanie is the reason that I started cross-stitching to begin with. Because of my blog, I was reading Stephanie's blog. And I've told this story a few times, but she did this, don't remember the series name, but it was a Saturday post where she shared something other than books that she was interested in. And that is what got me started on this whole cross-stitch journey. So, like, I'm forever grateful to Stephanie for exposing me to this craft, because I don't know that I would have ever taken up the interest in it. I don't know that I would have ever been exposed to it. Nobody in my immediate family ever stitched. Danny's grandma and grandmother both did, but their interests, I think, were more in crochet than cross-stitch. So, and embroidery work, less of the counted cross-stitch venue. So, I owe a lot to Stephanie, but like this is also a link because we are both book bloggers. I mean, I'm kind of an ex-book blogger. I still have my blog, but I don't do anything with it currently. So, it's just kind of, it's like tying two strangers together a little bit. So, anyway. So I started that. But I stopped it because, like I said, I didn't have that thread. So Danny got home on Sunday, and I'm like, Danny, what do I work on? He's like, what's your oldest project? Well, my oldest project is my 20-year celebration by Passione Ricamo. Okay, you should work on that. I don't want to. In fact, based on that response right there, I actually put that project in the UFO pile. I'm not unkidding it, so I might go back to it eventually. But currently, it's just not something that I'm even interested in stitching. So, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just so ginormous, and it's not a priority. So, anyway. So then he was like, okay, well, what's your next oldest project? And I'm like, Frosty Not Garden. He said, you should work on that. So I did. I pulled that out. So, my Frosty Not Garden is my pattern by Chatelaine. And I'm not even going to insert a preview of what this will look, or what it looked like last time. I will insert what it will look like finished. But I can just tell you what I did. So, here's where it stands currently. And this is on a, I believe it's a 28 count. I keep questioning my fabric knowledge. It might be a Belfast. It's a linen in antique white, and it came with the kit from European Cross Stitch. So, Frosty Not Garden, what I worked on was this leaf motif here. Seriously, that's all that I have to do before the last part. And the last part is so small. So I have, I'm at the finish line with this project. So that night, Danny was like, you know, you should maybe just stick with this until the end of the year and just get it done. Try to get this done this year. And I'm like, yeah, but like this one counts for a lot of dollars in Stitch from Stash if I finish it in January. So I'm not going to finish this until January. Plus, those leaves are causing serious mental block. Like I can't get past them. I think it's because I've been working on this part for over a year now that I can't. So anyway, so there's that. And I was going to continue working on this that following Monday, but that's when I had my fall. And so that was the end of that. But there's my Frosty Not Garden. I absolutely love this piece. When I was working on it, I said, all right, I'm going to go work in my garden some more. Love it. Looking forward to finishing that, but not till next year because this counts for a lot of dollars, like I said. So, okay, so following Frosty Not Garden, I wasn't stitching a whole lot, so I had to pick one project. Just one project that if I found a few minutes where I could sit in the chair, I ended up finding a way to set up the heating pad at my back so that I could stitch for 30 minutes here and there, at least towards the end. I had to pick a project to work on, and so that project was the one that I had slated to try to get finished before Thanksgiving. This is my Be Thankful, and it is by Imaginating. And you'll be seeing a preview here of what it looked like the last time I showed it to you. I think I showed it in my last update video. Here it is finished. So I ended up getting it done in little 30-minute spurts for like a week and a half. That's seriously what it took. Lots of little minutes of stitching. And one long session that I ended up regretting because I remember the next day I was hurting for sitting in the chair for that long. But you know, you get that heating pad on a sore spot, it numbs it out, so you don't even know. Anyway. Live, love, laugh, be thankful. Can I just tell you guys that the amount of backstitching in this design is insane? Because I'm going to bring it in a little bit. Each of those little berries there are backstitched. And then somebody asked me what my signature would look like on Ada. There it is. It looks like JS Pound, but that's a 1/6. What are you going to do? So in the end, I ended up really enjoying this. I only made one mistake, and 10 points for Gryffindor if you can find it. Yeah, I really, really love it. I also changed the backstitch colors called for a little bit because the branch, it's charted the branch is supposed to be stitched in a different color than the berries, and I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not doing that. So I just ended up backstitching the branch all in 3371, including the berries. And then, what else did I do differently? There was something else that was supposed to be charted or backstitched in 3371 that I ended up using the other color for. And so this was a kit, like I think I said, by Imaginating, and it is done on 14 count Fiddler's Ada. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no Ada projects anymore. He just stretched onto his back. He never does that. Okay. So 14 count Fiddler's Ada. This is my last Ada project. All done. I might start another one in the not so distant future because this is really great stitching for migraine days. Because counting is super, it's just a lot easier on Ada. And because it's 14 count, the stitches are big, so it didn't require like up close and personal stitching. So there is that. All done. And that is finish number 16 for the year. This was my second finish from my final 8. So I got 25% of my final 8 done. It's a really bad record. But it's okay. It was also a Year of Whips piece. I think this was my Year of Whips finish number 4. So pretty pleased with that. I didn't get it framed in time for Thanksgiving, but that's okay. I'll do that before next year. Okay, so following Be Thankful, I decided to stitch. Oh, okay, so following Be Thankful, then I was leading into my week 4 of my rotation, which is that daily alphabetic rotation. And that was also the week before Thanksgiving. So the first project that was on that daily rotation was the Eastern Bluebird by Stony Creek from their Birds of the Month series. And I stitched this on 28 count Cashel in Fog by Picture This Plus, which is the most barely dyed fabric I've ever seen in my life. It really just looks dirty. But I like it. So I'm going to insert a preview here of what it looked like the last time you saw it. And here is where it is now. Finished. Finished. It's so little. Look at how cute this is. So I love how this turned out. Obviously, I changed a few things. So the top is pretty much as charted. It's the bottom where things get a little bit interesting. So as you can see in the chart, Eastern Bluebird is stitched there, but it's backstitched in the most boring font ever. So I found something a little bit more interesting to do to backstitch that. And then I was trying to decide if I was going to do May or leave it blank, but it looked really bare blank. Like it wasn't balanced. So, but I wasn't going to do May because I'm not going to do all 12 of these. And it doesn't make any sense to me to put May on there. Like, so then I thought, well, maybe I could do 4 total for the 4 seasons. And May is kind of springtime. I mean, these flowers kind of give the appearance of spring. So this is my spring bird. And then I'm going to do 3 more. I'm going to do the Baltimore Oriole for summer because I believe that is the August or September bird. And my husband is a Baltimore Orioles fan. Baseball, summer, kind of makes sense. For winter, I'm going to do either the Blue Jay or the Cardinal. So December or January, I haven't decided yet. And then for fall, I'm going to do the November bird, which I cannot remember the name of. But anyway, so I'm going to do 4. And then I'll change them out for the seasons. The font that I used to write spring there, it's kind of an adapted one of these letters here. It's very, very modified because those letters are huge and they would not fit. When I first charted it out, the G ended up over here. So that was silly. So I had to change it up a little bit. And then because of the way that I stitched the Eastern Bluebird, I ended up having to change this branch a little bit. I hid my signature right there. You can kind of see the Jessica stitch in pink. And I made it look like a little flower bud. And it's charted for another backstitched branch down there, but obviously that wasn't going to fit, so I omitted it completely. This chart calls for Weeks Dye Works in Cocoa, which I had purchased, but I chose not to use because, like, it's only used for those 2 cross-stitched branches. That's it. So I just decided to go with the DMC equivalent, and I think it looks really nice just the way it is. And that cocoa went into mustache. So there's my Eastern Bluebird. You see what I'm saying about that fog? Like, it doesn't even really look like a hand-dyed fabric. It just looks white and kind of dingy. But it's okay. I like it. So there is that. I don't have a start date for the other 3, but this is the first one. And then my plan is to, I think it'd be cool to get this board and the magnets to set them on, but I don't think I'm going to get the Stony Creek magnets. I think I'm going to use something from either my needle minders, or I'll make something of my own, so that it can be seasonal enough. Maybe VT, because if you have a question and you're a Hokie, the answer is VT. Okay, so that was Eastern Bluebird, and that took a couple of days, so that interrupted my rotation. Following the Eastern Bluebird, I had to pick a project that I was going to take with me while we were away. So on Wednesday we left from my mom's. From my mom's on Friday we left for Blacksburg. We got back from Blacksburg on Sunday. So I wanted to take a project with me, even though I knew that I wasn't going to get a whole lot of stitching time. So I ended up taking the next project in my rotation, which was Elizabeth by Glendon Place. And so I'm going to insert a preview here of what this looked like the last time you saw it. And I am stitching this on a 32 count Belfast linen in Buttercup by Under the Sea Fabrics. Here's what it will look like finished. My beautiful Elizabeth flower. Okay, and here is where I'm up to now. So I didn't do a whole lot, which is kind of to be expected. I mean, we were traveling for most of Wednesday. There's not exactly a whole lot of time to stitch while you're with family. We were playing a lot of cards. Abby, have you found a way to turn in your chips to 1, 2, 3 stitch? They wouldn't take mine. So yeah, so that's the progress that I got done on my Elizabeth. And I'm going to zoom in here because this pale yellow blends in real well with the fabric. So you can probably even barely see that when I zoom in. There we go. So that's really the progress that I made. I worked on that petal there. And I think that that petal will be stitched around, yeah. So the fuchsia krennic is going to go around that once I get to that point. So there we have it. That's my Elizabeth, and I love this piece. I'm so excited to get to stitching in some krennic. I don't have the krennics to do this quite yet, but I will. So there's that. Okay, so we get back on Sunday, and I had pretty much, oh, that's what happened. So on Sunday, we get back, I get ready to start stitching. I left my kit, like with all of my scissors, all of my needles. I left everything at my mom's house. She lives about an hour and a half north of me, depending on traffic. So I was like, crud. I'm not going to be able to stitch. I don't have scissors. I don't have needles. Danny, amazing husband that he is, despite traveling and just wanting to sit down and watch football, went to Walmart for me to see if they had some 28 tapestry needles. The smallest they had were 22s. Holy cannoli, those are huge, especially for 32 count fabric, which is primarily what my projects are. So yeah, I didn't have anything. Now fortunately, the next day, that Monday, I was going up to go pick up Thor, so I was going up to that area to get Thor, so I could get my kit then. But in the meantime, I'm scrambling. I found some old scissors, and I picked a project to where I could stitch with the needles that I had on hand. The needles that I had on hand were 26s, which I really only use for Ada projects. I didn't have any of those. Or I had some beading needles. Or I had my Mill Hill kits. So that's kind of where I was at. It worked out, fortunately, that the next project in my rotation was Flowering Flourish by Connie G Designs. And this I'm stitching all in beads, so I could use a beading needle. So I was able to make it work, thank goodness, because I was so looking forward to being able to stitch on Sunday, because I hadn't for the previous 3 days, and really the previous 5 days, because there was no significant progress, and really for the previous 2 weeks, because my back, like, I was so ready to stitch on Sunday, and so, this, like I said, it's Flowering Flourish by Connie G Designs, and you'll be seeing a preview here of what this will look like finished loosely, and as well as a preview of what it looked like last time. I didn't make a ton of progress because we had a lot of shows to catch up on, and I was just kind of exhausted from a long weekend, so I didn't do a ton, but I did some. So here's where I'm at currently, and like I said, I'm stitching this all in beads, and I'm using Mill Hill glass beads, item number 02010, so 2010. And so they're just kind of like a crystal colored bead. Bring that in a little bit closer so you can see it. And so what I did was this loop here and down. So I mean, I put on quite a few beads, and I'm doing those on full cross, so they're not half cross. And I'm attaching with the Nymo beading thread. That's what my back looks like. So really, it's not invisible, but close. So there's that. I have measured this a couple of times because I was starting to get a little bit concerned about the width, because this is a snowflake style design, and so this section essentially will be repeated on all 4 sides. I have enough for the spacing. There's not a ton of wiggle room, and this is certainly not going to be a framed piece, because I'm going to have like maybe an inch, half inch. So I'm going to have to FFO this in a different style, which is okay because it's covered in beads, so frame might not be the best option anyway. This fabric is a 32 count opalescent Belfast in Darkness Falls from Under the Sea Fabrics, so really it's kind of upside down. And as you know, I'm going to stitch this design twice, once up here on this light side, and again in some pearlescent white beads on the dark side. So I'll have 2 beautiful beaded little snowflake guys. So there's that. Absolutely love it. The beads do not sit perfectly because they're Mill Hill beads, so they're all wonky shaped and whatnot, but I mean, when you're looking at it, like, you can't even tell that things aren't lining up the way that you might want them to. So love that. Love how sparkly it is. Love that I was able to stitch that day, because I was devastated to find that I didn't have my kit. So sad. Okay. So next day, I pulled out one of my favorite projects. I absolutely love this project. This is the Graceful Reindeer. It is by Marie Barber, and it is from the Just Cross Stitch issue from December 2015. You guys know how much I love this piece. So you'll be seeing a preview here of what this will look like finished, as well as what it looked like the last time I showed it to you. I made some pretty good progress, and it kind of comes with its own story. So here's where it stands currently. Because you can't see anything, all you can see is the reindeer himself. Okay, so I'm going to set the coffee down because Thor won't knock it over. He's happily snoring. So that I can bring this in a little bit closer. So you can see how gold his antlers are. And then you can see the little blue dots there. There we go. Okay, so when I started stitching on this last time it came up, I started with the reindeer butt. So I stitched a reindeer butt. Then I continued on and finished the tassel there underneath his butt, which, looking at it now, never mind. It will look better once it's all backstitched. Otherwise it looks kind of like, never mind. Okay, and then I stitched his legs. So the deer himself is all done. Oh, that's the other thing. I didn't think I had these two Krennics. I randomly found them. And I mean like I don't even know why I didn't think I had them, but I definitely, maybe there's a Krennic fairy floating around. And they blessed me with the Krennics that I needed. That was awesome. Because otherwise, I was left like, okay, well, I guess that's it. That's all I could do for now. So the Krennic that I was missing in the blue part of his saddle is actually what's used in the accents around. So there's a bunch of specialty stitches. There's some eyelets and French knots and lazy daisies in Krennic. So I did a test on the French knots, and it worked out okay. I mean, it wasn't awful. I thought that it was going to be awful, but it wasn't. So, but the reason I ended up switching it out for beads, cute little tiny blue beads. The reason why is that I can't pin stitch for a French knot. I can't pin stitch really in Krennic. I mean, it's just too crunchy, it's too bulky. So I would have to carry it along the back. And that is, I don't know, I wasn't a huge fan. It was showing through the fabric. So I decided to swap out the Krennic for beads. Oh, wrong way, Jess, there you go. And I attached it with Nymo thread, so you can't see it through the fabric. I mean, you can't even see the beads when you're just looking at it there. But, I mean, here, I'll show it to you here. You can see the Nymo. I mean, it's kind of like a constellation there. It's just stretched all over the place. You would be able to see that dark blue Krennic through the back of the fabric. So, I just decided to do the beads instead, and I'm cool with that. Let me see if I have the item number. These are Mill Hill Glass Beads 02088. That's what I used. And then, one other thing I wanted to talk about. Okay, so those are the beads. Very pretty blue beads. I had them in my stash. I have no idea what these are for. But I only need a few of them. And then I'm going to get some crystals to replace the other specialty stitches because I don't think that a Lazy Daisy and Krennic is necessarily the prettiest thing. I mean, he's about to fall off the bed. Hey Thor, please do not fall. Thank you. Lazy Daisies are inconsistent. They're hard to keep uniform, and Krennic is only going to complicate that issue. So I'm just going to replace it with some crystals. I'm going to go to like Hobby Lobby or something and get some crystals that I can use in place to look like snowflakes or something. I'll figure something out. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was this Krennic right here. This is Krennic number 015, and this might be my new favorite Krennic. This is chartreuse, so Aish, I know that you're loving this. This Krennic stitches like petite treasure braid, and like not the super crunchy petite treasure braid, but like the like easy to stitch with petite treasure braid. I flippin' loved this. This is one of the colors that is called for in my Elizabeth, and I'm so excited to use it again. You know, some Krennics, they're difficult. Like it's the best word I have is crunchy. They are super high luster. The metallic is not very smooth. This is awesome. Loved this. The other one is one of the blues, and I think it's this one. Yeah, it's this one. Confetti Blue, which is number 044. Very similar. Very, like, easy Krennic to work with. I was like, this is amazing. So, just so you know, 044 and 015. Excellent Krennics. So there we have it. I wish that all Krennics were like that. It was wonderful. And that green is only used very little in the blanket underneath his saddle, so I will be excited to use that again. I'm going to insert the photo that I took for Instagram here of that project so that you can see it. I found a good filter on my iPad so that you can see the fabric as well as the stitching itself. So I'm going to insert that here so that you can see what this looks like. Okay, coffee back up. Actually, I'm going to take a sip. My throat's getting tired of talking. Okay. Following Graceful Reindeer was my Heron. Now, this piece has, it's kind of pulled double duty, triple duty actually. It was my last piece for the Stitch Mania Something Old, Neobard, and Blue, so this was my piece for the blue. I also used it for the first Year of Whips challenge piece. The first Year of Whips challenge was a weekend where you had to put in 700 stitches on your least favorite project, or the project that you're having the hardest time finding the motivation to work on for this Year of Whips. And that is this piece to a T. I don't ever look forward to working on this project. I'm going to finish it because it's one of my Year of Whips, but I'm also going to finish it because I think that this is going to be a product stitch for me. I'm going to like the finished piece. I just don't like the stitching of it. So, this is my Heron. It's by Leslie Tier. Preview here what it will look like finished, as well as what it looked like last time. I ended up failing the Year of Whips challenge miserably because back injury, just couldn't do it. So, but I did get, nonetheless, some really good progress on this. I think I stitched on it a total of 2 days. So this is on a 28 count even weave. It's white by MCG Textiles. I don't care for this fabric, and to be honest, so some people don't like this fabric because the stitches are taller than they are wide, or wider than they are tall, depending on how you orient the fabric when you're stitching it. That's never bothered me until like the other day when I was working on this. Getting chilly. And I noticed it. Like I could see that they were taller than they were wide, and it bugged me. So this is the MCG Textiles Not Even Weave, Even Weave. So because, I mean, like all of those things that bug me about it, the weave is so dense that it twists my stitches up funny, and I have to railroad so much more often than I normally do. This is going to be a product stitch for me. But that's okay. So, I mean, I did make some really good progress. I brought this dark blue over here, and I filled in a big chunk of this 828 pale blue. Big chunk of it. And I also got to work on some of the purples. I fell asleep stitching, so that's why that one is just trailing off there. So yeah, I mean, I'm pleased with the progress that I made for just 2 days worth of stitching. The vast majority of this was made on Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday. So, there's my heron. I love Leslie Tier designs. I just won't be stitching anything on this fabric ever again. I would consider stitching on Ada, but not this. I just, ugh, not a fan. Not a fan. But I'll like it when it's done. So there is my heron. Love that. Okay, so that concludes November. On the 30th, I did work on something else, but that kind of applies more to my December plans.